everybody. How are you today? Welcome. It's to Story and Art. It's 411. Whew. And water. It's a gorgeous day here. We actually have, it's like weather warm enough to wear shorts and be outside most of the day. It's glorious. Oh, well, I'm going to say hi to everybody. So yeah, I'm thrilled. My lighting is probably going to go in and out and in and out because I'm not closing my window shade because the sun shines out there and I don't want to miss a minute of it. So let's check in. And Linda's here. Let's see, I'm going to move this here in front so I can read everything. Linda's here. And she's saying hi to Tamara and to me and to Bob. The painting I rolled up should guess another on the right. Been working on a new piece. I'm trying to paint a watercolor painting of a lyrebird. Oh, I know what a lyrebird looks like. Yeah, they're pretty cool. Those are amazing, Tamara. That'll be exciting to see. And let's see. It's only found in Australia. It's very amazing. So Tamara's here, and there's Larry. He's here too. And Julia. Hi, Julia. Good to have you here. Thank you for coming in. Larry, isn't this weather just amazing today? Oh my gosh. Felt so good. So just to sit out, I needed sun badly that I could sit in and not completely get scorched. Let's see. Tamara and Julie. Yay! So checked in with everybody that's here that I can see. If you're lurking in the background, which could be Lupe if she's here, sometimes Gail, Lori Houston too, maybe Helen even is hiding in the backgrounds. Who knows? If you're here, welcome so much to be here. Tonight I have one story, and but I have the story part, and then the addition to the book is some more details about the artist, and it really kind of fit right in. This is, there's a lot of talk, May being Mental Health Month, and what we do for art that helps to keep us stable and sane, so to speak, and really help to get things through and work through things. I find it very therapeutic. I find it very helpful. I find that the days that I don't, a combination of if I don't do some art or creativity type things and I don't have enough sleep, if there's a combination of those two, if I fail on those two together, it's not a happy thing. And so that's when I read this book, I thought, wow, what a way to talk about that and to highlight how much art means to us and what it does for us all. And okay. Julia said, if someone talks to Lupe, please tell her I'm trying to contact her. Okay. So anyway, it's just, and this particular book about this artist who I did not know anything about, but his own struggles with health issues, mental health issues, and all the kind of things, and what he did and continued to do and how art helped him. It's pretty amazing. But the book is called The Secret World of Walter Anderson, and he was an artist who lived in the Gulfport area of Mississippi, which I'm kind of familiar with by marriage. Bob's family is from, his mom was from Biloxi, Mississippi, and that whole area, they lived, grew up down there, and he's visited that area many a time. And so it's real interesting to hear about what this is. But the author, so let's first off see how everybody's. Oh man, I spent. Today's Thursday. I spent all day Tuesday painting. All day. And that's all I did. And then last night made a video because I used the TLP pigments. I got one when I went to Fluid Art Experience. They gave one. And I mixed it with water to try to make a watercolor. And I thought it turned out really kind of cool. But then this morning, I came down and it was like you could touch it and blend it. So I made a video I haven't edited yet. That's going to be a whole another kind of thing. But it was kind of fun. And then on Wednesday, I was like yesterday, I slept half the day because I was so exhausted. I don't know why. Bone tired. I'd been staying up too late, hadn't done some things. And then today it was in and out, in and out. But boy, I felt a lot better when I started doing some creative stuff. But I had to. The one thing is some of the things that I wanted to do are on computer, and it's really kind of tough to take a Mac out in the sunshine because it doesn't really show that you can't see the screen very well. Oh well. But that's what it is. Slow though. Oh, there's Fatima. Hi, how are you? Travel Dreamer 46. Fatima's here. Lynn Tamara says, yes, me too. I need, oops. She makes a good mask. I need to do my art or I get grumpy, or so I've been told. I do love creating so much. Yeah, makes a whole lot of difference. So that is really, really what this artist did. I mean, it is such an amazing thing about what he went through and what he did for his art. It's pretty amazing. So the book is by Hester Bass, and she's the author of a picture book, So Many Houses, illustrated by Alik Aruzamanian. And then she says about the secret world of Walter Anderson, she says, it seems to me that Walter Anderson was one of those rare individuals who is fully awake to the world. I find his art and writings, like nature itself, endlessly refreshing. I was once asked what was the one story that I most wanted to publish, and this is it. And Hester Bass lives in Alabama. Now, the book is illustrated by E.B. Lewis. He's the illustrator of more than 30 books for children. He wrote Talking About Bessie. He illustrated Talking About Bessie, the story of aviator Elizabeth Coleman by Nikki Grimes. I think I might have read that one to you. And 3 Coretta Scott King honor books, My Rose and Piles of Coins, Virgie Goes to School with Us, and The Bat Boy and His Violin. He says what has always been, what it has always been, and what it will always have been. Such is the nature of the beginning. Louis I. Kahn. For me, that is the essence of art. He lives in New Jersey. Well, that was confusing to me. Anyway, this book is about the artist Walter Anderson. And so I'm going to read the book first. And then the end of after the story, after the biography part, then there is a little more history on him and I've got image sites up to show some of the images while I read that part of what he did. Pretty amazing. Who he was. And it says, residents along the Mississippi Gulf Coast thought he was odd. They pay homage to this uncompromising American artist and offer readers a powerful glimpse into the secret world of Walter Anderson. You ready? I am. Let's go. Where's the food? To the stomach, the esophagus. Oh, yay. Having great things to do. Oh, nice. What's a gullet? Oh, I missed part of a conversation. So the cover of this, E.B. Lewis, the artwork, let me see if it says in the back. But I think the artwork is watercolor. Has this really beautiful end papers that have that kind of foggy mist area. The Secret World of Walter Anderson by Hester Bass and illustrated by E.B. Lewis. Look at that. There once was a man whose love of nature was as wide as the world. There once was an artist who needed to paint as much as he needed to breathe. There once was an islander who lived in a cottage at the edge of the Mississippi, where the sea meets the earth and the sky. His name was Walter Anderson. He may be the most famous American artist you've never heard of. To see a green heron's nest, he would climb a tree. To draw a sphinx moth against a pattern of bulrushes, he would wade up to his shoulders. Art was an adventure, and Walter Anderson was an explorer first class. While the sun was still sleeping, Walter Anderson would get ready for a trip to his favorite place to paint. He used metal garbage cans as suitcases. He packed apples and raisins and peanut butter and rice. He packed paints and brushes and pencils and 8.5 by 11-inch typing paper. He wore his scruffy old weather-beaten hat. He never went anywhere without his hat. It shaded his eyes, held his art supplies, and often transported his models, such as snakes, birds, and raccoons. Walter locked the door to his one little room in his cottage. He didn't let anybody in there. Maybe a possum or a mouse, but not his wife or his children. Nobody ever. That was his little room. He pinned a note to the screen door of his front porch. Gone to Horn Island. A star was still shining in the sky, and cricket song hung in the air. Walter had found pieces of a boat washed up on the beach and put them back together like a puzzle. He slid this leaky green skiff into the bayou that led to Biloxi Bay, which led to the Mississippi Sound and to the Gulf of Mexico beyond. A kingfisher rattled farewell. A blue heron stood at attention. There were 12 miles of open water between Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and Horn Island. Sometimes Walter used an umbrella for a sail, but usually he rowed every stroke. Dolphins and pelicans escorted Walter on his journey. The sun and the wind and his shadow kept him company. His boat bobbed in the waves for hours and hours until he pulled the skiff on shore. There would be no warm bed waiting for Walter, no running water, no bathroom or kitchen. Horn was a wild, windswept barrier island, where life had never been easy. Once there had been a lighthouse, once there had been a farm, but no one lived on Horn Island anymore. There were biting flies, hungry mosquitoes, swarming gnats, fire ants, venomous snakes, blistering heat, blinding sun, freezing cold, stinging rain, and roaring wind. But for Walter, to paint on Horn Island was to be in paradise. Walter was not alone on Horn Island. He had many friends there after he set up camp. Walter sometimes held a housewarming banquet with prunes for the raccoons and rice for the rabbits and birds. The rats always got some too. When Walter was thirsty, he got fresh water from an old well he called Rabbit Springs. When it went brackish, wild hogs left over from the farm helped him find water to drink. Walter would stay on Horn Island for weeks at a time, in all kinds of weather, using his boat as a shelter. When Walter was hungry, he often had a mystery feast because the cans of food he brought would get wet and the labels would slide off. He cooked over a fire. Sometimes he would eat whatever washed up, a jar of pickles, an orange. There was always something on the beach. Once there were 7 or 8 miles of bananas. Food was scarce on the island, and the animals seemed to dance around all those bananas on the sand, and Walter painted them. Walter also kept journals, writing and drawing about everything he experienced. He called them logs, and they reveal how deeply he wanted to harmonize with the symphony of nature. Walter would draw and paint all his friends on Horn Island from sunrise till after nightfall. He especially loved that last magic hour before sunset, as the colors of the world were melting into darkness. Sometimes he got animals to come closer by feeding them like pets. Reddy the duck, Split Ear the rabbit, Inky the raccoon, Slimy the frog. Sometimes Walter tried to rescue animals, but often they were too sick or hurt to be saved. He would paint them even in death, for they were still magnificent. And because images were food for Walter Anderson, and on an island, no food is ever wasted. Some people called him crazy for living like a hermit just to paint fish and animals and birds and plants, but Walter Anderson spent some of the happiest times of his life on Horn Island. Walter Anderson survived snake bite and hurricanes, but in 1965, he became seriously ill. Nevertheless, he continued drawing. While in the hospital, he drew the other patients. Doctors did everything that could be done, but Walter Anderson died in the city of New Orleans, where he had been born 62 years before. The little room in his cottage was still locked. What was inside remained a mystery. Until one day, his wife unlocked the door, and what she saw took her breath away. The walls were covered with paintings of a Gulf Coast day, animals creeping home at dawn, birds roosting in the trees at sunset, all crowned by a giant zinnia on the ceiling. There was art everywhere. Throughout his life, he had painted murals and block prints and pottery for everybody else, for the public. But Walter Anderson had kept his Horn Island paintings and drawings private, hidden, just for himself. Walter Anderson took the time to truly see what was all around him. He concentrated so intensely on his subjects that he felt he became the tree, that flower, or that bird, especially among his friends on Horn Island. He painted because that's what he loved to do. He saw the world in a wildly original way, and he transformed his experience into shapes and lines, patterns and colors. Walter Anderson painted to realize his secret world, to bring himself and nature into one thing called art. There is one of his pieces. This is where the author's note is, and I'm gonna read some more of that. But oh, love the illustrations. I know, and then his own work is just. Let me see if I can expand this a bit, and you can see it better. This recreation of some of his things that I'll read all this to you, and when you go through some of the information about more detail about him. That's an oil and tempera on stucco. A self-portrait. Blue jays. And then this one down here. And there, if you can see it, turn the light down on it a little more, is the picture of the room. Give it a little more light, maybe. Nope, that's going to just make it darker. Yeah, you can see. That's his cottage room. Pretty amazing. Go. So that's the story of the secret world of Walter Anderson. Just a fascinating person, and how much he poured into it. And the book, like all picture books as a biography, takes one little part and touches on it. But it really made me happy that the author went into this elaborate bit on the end, more description of what it was and what he had done, because I really wanted to find out more about them. Yeah, I love this. So, the man after my own heart, says Linda. I know the illustrations are just so beautiful. Pelicans, and I was watching a behind the lens or through the lens last night, YouTube about Tom Mangelson, and he started out with the pelicans at Grand Tetons in the winter because they traverse there, and he was taking pictures, and it was like how they travel so far. Amazing. Let's see. I know, live for love. Exactly, live for love. So this is more about the author's note on this. I see you guys like that, and the author has more, and I wanted to show you some more things. So I went and I typed in Walter Anderson art. And yeah, there's a few things. So the author's note says, best known for his Horn Island watercolors, Walter Anderson was a skilled and prolific artist who also created oil paintings, drawings, decorated ceramics, wood sculpture, block prints, murals, poetry, and prose. He has been called a mad genius and a homegrown Van Gogh. Born in New Orleans in 1903, Walter Anderson grew up surrounded by books and birds, art and animals, and bookend brothers, destined to become artists too. He was an enthusiastic reader, favoring mythology, folklore, history, science, music, and art. The boys' mother was artistic and made sure they followed in her footsteps. Their businessman father made sure they could make a living at it. So you can see some of these. Where am I wrong? Here. See this one. There we go. Walter Anderson art. Extraordinary Life of the Art. There's a book about him. Here's one of his pieces. Walter, who was nicknamed Bob, spent the 1920s studying art. First at what would become Parsons, the new school for design in New York, then graduating from the Pennsylvania Academy for the Fine Arts in Philadelphia. At the academy, he sometimes grew tired of the classroom and escaped to the zoo to draw animals from life. His drawings of lions, bears, and monkeys won the Packard Prize, and later he won a Cresson scholarship to study in France. Walter saw the great museums in Paris, but spent most of his time on foot or on bicycle, seeing the countryside and admiring the cathedrals. He was most impressed by prehistoric cave paintings in the south of France, flickering images of ancient animals seen by torchlight burned in his mind. And so you can see like some of his work there. Where's one of the cave drawing type pictures? Let's see. That kind of, yeah. Walter decorated 10 pieces of, let's see where, here it is. I'm skipped, sorry. Walter returned home from school on the eve of the Depression. The Andersons had left New Orleans and moved to more than 20 acres of wild Mississippi coastline in Ocean Springs. They called it Shearwater. His older brother, Peter, founded the family business of Shearwater Pottery in 1928 and became a master potter, creating utilitarian ware of simple beauty, prized for its distinctive glazes and shapes. Walter decorated Peter's vases, bowls, and plates with animals, birds, people, flowers, and geometry. He was greatly influenced by the idea of 7 artistic motifs composed of lines and curves, as described by Mexican artist Best Magard. Walter and his younger brother Mac made and decorated what they called widgets and gadgets, figurines of pirates, athletes, and fairy tale characters, as well as creatures from the yard and the bayou, inspired by literature, their surroundings, and their imagination. Like you said, pelicans. Look at this one of his pelican. That one, I don't know what year that was. This is, here is one of the rooms. In the cottage, I think. Walter decorated 10 pieces of pottery a week for $10. He finally made enough money to marry Agnes Grinstead, named Sissy, in 1933. They moved into the cottage at Shearwater. He hooked rugs, block-printed curtains, and built most of the furniture, including a chair carved to resemble a pelican and a table supported by sculpted blue jays. In 1935, Walter Anderson painted murals for Ocean Springs High School, Native Americans hunting deer, local fishermen catching mullet. He was making a living as an artist in the 1930s, when it was hard to make a living at all. But in 1937, Walter Anderson became ill. His mind was tortured. He escaped one hospital and walked home, following railroad tracks for 1,000 miles. He escaped another hospital by tying bed sheets together. As he slid down the brick wall, he used a bar of soap to draw birds flying away with him. His doctors said he needed rest. Walter felt he needed more time to paint. In 1940, the Walter Andersons moved to nearby Gautier to live at Oldfields, Sissy's father's rambling waterfront home. Making art did make Walter better. Walter Anderson made a calendar of drawings, one a day, for more than 3 years. He made puppets, toys, and books for his children. He used crayons to create astonishingly sophisticated drawings. He explored rivers, bayous, and islands, and he took long bicycle trips and made maps of his journey. Let's see, what else can I... You can see how the things he would have seen just by this picture alone on his bicycle trips. You can just imagine what it would have been like. And if you've ever been down there along the roads, you know that these guys are hanging out on the side of the road. I can remember driving, not in Mississippi, but across Alligator Alley in Florida, and pulling over at a little side road for something like a food shack almost, to use a restroom and to get something to eat. And as I pulled into this kind of parking lot on the grass off the side of the road, it said, "No parking past this point. Beware gators, no path." So I couldn't park past there. And I would see gators off the side of the road. It was amazing. But so you can imagine what riding on his bicycle, the things that he would have seen, and where his imagination took him. Oops, what happened there? That one, oh, that's Wayfair. That's not what I wanted to do. There we go. Why did that do? Like this. These other ones. That's one of his block prints, I believe. Walter carved images from myths, fairy tales, and life on the Gulf Coast on huge blocks of linoleum in reverse, then printed the pictures on the back of old wallpaper. He wanted everyone to be able to afford to bring art into their homes, so he charged only $1 per foot for intricate block prints. Walter read book after book at night by lamplight. He turned the pages with his left hand while his right hand dipped a pen in ink, and he drew pictures inspired by the words. Just think about that. He's turning the pages with his left hand, and he's drawing with a pen and dipped in ink with his right at the same time. By morning, drawings covered the floor like fallen leaves. But the everyday stresses of family life were too much for Walter to bear. In 1946, before his 4th child was born, Walter went back to the cottage at Shearwater. His wife and children eventually followed, but they would never all live in the same house again. Walter's family lived in a converted barn across the path from the cottage. Walter's very survival seemed to depend on working alone, and although the separation was very painful, his family loved him enough to let him. In Ocean Springs, everybody knew that crazy artist who rode his bicycle everywhere. In 1950, when the city was building a new community center, Walter Anderson offered to paint murals on the 90-foot walls as a gift. Yet the city contracted him to pay him $1. He spent 1 year painting the arrival of the French and French-Canadian explorers in 1699, greeted by Native Americans, and accurately depicted the plants and animals of the Gulf Coast. The mural is considered his masterpiece today, but at that time people were not ready for his generosity. Most townspeople didn't like it and wanted to paint over it. Walter never cashed the $1 check. He could find no peace on the mainland, so he sought it elsewhere. Walter began to spend more and more time on Horn Island, his refuge, his haven, his salvation. He wrote volume after volume of logs, full of observations, poetry, and drawings, chronicling his many journeys there, and he painted watercolors. In September 1965, Walter Anderson survived Hurricane Betsy by tying himself to his boat and experiencing the storm from the highest dune on Horn Island. 2 months later, he died following an operation for lung cancer at age 62. In 1991, just before Sissy's death, a museum was established in Ocean Springs to showcase Walter Anderson's art. Storms and humidity threatened the little room in the cottage, so it was moved to safety within the museum. Walter's rickety skiff, his rusted bicycle, and his battered old hat are often on display. In 2003, to celebrate what would have been his 100th birthday, the Smithsonian Institute of Washington, D.C. honored Walter Anderson with an exhibition of his life work called Everything I See is New and Strange. Thousands of people saw his art, many for the first time, and marveled at its depth and variety. He was called an American master. As one of the oldest continuously operating art potteries in the United States, Shearwater attracted people from all over the world. It seemed to be a magical place. People felt a change in atmosphere and quality of light as soon as they crossed the paved street onto the unpaved roads of the property. Time appeared to stand still at Shearwater, as if the past, present, and future were inseparably one. Some of the weathered buildings had stood since the 1830s and looked much the same as when Walter Anderson lived and worked there. Let's see, where's one? Then came August 29th, 2005, and Hurricane Katrina. A storm surge estimated at up to 28 feet crashed ashore at Shearwater and took much of the legacy of the Anderson family out to sea. The people evacuated and survived, but 16 buildings were damaged or destroyed, including 9 family homes. The destructive power of nature was fearsomely displayed. Debris was piled high. The pottery showroom and workrooms were gutted. The Walter Anderson family vault, containing their personal collection, was flooded with 6 feet of water. The Walters cottage was knocked off its foundation and devastated. The artwork at the museum in downtown Ocean Springs, farther from the coastline, was thankfully safe. But much of his cultural heritage was damaged or lost forever. Nevertheless, the Anderson family has deep roots at Shearwater, and like the live oaks that endured the storm, they had resolved to stand sure. The pottery has been rebuilt, the cottage has been righted but needs repair, and nature has revealed its equally remarkable ability to heal. Let's see, what's another picture I haven't shown yet? That one. And there's this one. His animals. Shows some of his animals that he has. Did like that one and that one. So let me get back to, oh, here's a pretty one. Look at that. There. My admiration for Walter Anderson began when I was introduced to his work in the early 1980s. Providence sent my family to live in Ocean Springs in 1996 when my husband, Clayton Bass, became the executive director of the Walter Anderson Museum for Art. For the next 7 years, I had the privilege to visit Horn Island, now protected as part of the Gulf Islands National Seashore, and to savor all the art that the entire Anderson family created. These treasures of the Gulf Coast must be preserved for future generations. A portion of my proceeds from this book will be donated to the families of the 3 Anderson brothers, Peter, Walter, and Mac, and to the Walter Anderson Museum of Art to support their efforts to conserve the artwork that can be saved. For many, Walter Anderson's work speaks of the hope and the renewal to be found in nature, the interconnectedness of all life, and the importance of art in our lives. Such a message is eternal and will survive any storm, just like Horn Island. Oh, look at some of these pieces. This one, I haven't caught up with you guys. Oops, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. Like Form and Fantasy, this right here. He has a whole alphabet book that he did. It's just amazing. Look at that. The walls. Oh my gosh. Oh, so beautiful. I'm so glad that that museum was further away from the coast and did not. I know, it is stunning. Aren't they just amazing? Oh, it makes you just want to paint the walls, doesn't it? Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's just, his work is so stunning in so many different ways. He had the things that he did, all kinds of stuff. And to know that so little, I mean, so I kind of pride myself on knowing a fair bit about artists, but nah, not so much. Not when it comes to this guy. That was an original. I was just looking for another one like these. Oh, look at this. See? Some more. Anyway, so I just really Googled Walter Anderson and I started to find all kinds of stuff. There is a museum. Hang on. Down there. Let me show you. Oh, here. Nope, that's not it. Yeah, that Anderson Museum. There it is. Walter Anderson Museum of Art. And what's cool on this, I noticed, go back up here. So this is the website for the Walter Anderson Museum of Art. And it has visit, join, on view, what's on view now, an archive, the collection. You can see some of the things. But apparently, if I go back to this one page I had at the beginning right here, they have the Dance Through the Art of Leif Anderson, Walter Anderson's youngest daughter, as she celebrates the female form inspired by her lifelong career as a professional dancer. So she has some work there. So the art continues and they do art classes and they education and events. They have a lesson plan library for doing art for all ages. Oh, look at that. You could do a butterfly. Walter Anderson Museum of Art. So they have all kinds of wonderful things. Lesson plans, journal lessons, stop motion lesson. Oh, and a timeline slideshow. Look at that. This is a good website. I mean, when they have, look at that. Look at his side of him when he's young. That really takes you through all of that type of thing. And his work shows the progress, some of his work in his journals. Oh, look at the pottery that he decorated, that his his brother, his older brother Peter. That was done in 1930. Reminiscent of your work, Tamara. This reminds me, I mean, I see similar style. Wow. Anyway, everybody. Yep. That's why it was one book, one artist who deserved his own night. I had to read this, and it just was so much fun. And that the watercolor, the softness of the colors, see in that, look at it, the way they are. The way the illustrator depicted his life down there with the pelicans and the dolphins and the hat. But then at times you saw, like, when it was the dark, you know. Just a beautiful book, really beautiful book. The Secret World of Walter Anderson. Oops, I jumped to the wrong spot. There we go. Yeah, jumped to the wrong one. Whoa. Well, it's the truth. For me, seeing somebody's art like this and going back and looking at his things just gives me ideas, gives me kind of an open freedom. He seemed to have just this really kind of loose approach to it and that connection with nature, and to know yourself well enough to know that in order to get through the dark times, he needed art in order to keep going. And yeah, he had to sacrifice. His family sacrificed a lot to living with him, but would we have had this kind of art? Would he have had the quality of life that he had if they hadn't done that for him? If they hadn't done it for each other, actually. Who knows? Never can tell, but it's always wonderful to read about when something like that works out. But to have kept it all so hidden for so long from everyone, and to have his own private room. Oh, pretty amazing. Yes, they did. They supported him. It's pretty amazing. Anyway, you guys, Sunday is the day for, let's see. Yeah. Sunday is the day for show and tell. Even though it is Mother's Day, I will still be coming on and doing, it is Mother's Day on Sunday, isn't it? Yes. So I'll still do a story. I'm sure that there's something over there in that pile that will be fun for that. And so, you guys, that's it for story time tonight for The Secret World of Walter Anderson. I'm still going to catch sunset tonight. It's still a ways away. It's so nice. You know, I always complain that it means I have to get up earlier to go photograph sunrise and sunset. But the sunsets, they rock. I love having this part of the day still be light and wonderful. It's just so nice. So that's it for tonight, everybody. Hey, Lupe! Yes, there she is. Happy early Mother's Day, ladies, everybody. Thanks, Lupe. I'm glad. I knew you were probably lurking. Tamara, I love being here too. It was today was one of those up and down kind of days for me, and I was like, what? I'm pushing through to get things. Yesterday, I was just flat out exhausted. I don't know. I pushed myself for far too many days on far too little sleep. And I got up in the early morning and did my creative work hour. And then I said, I'm just going to lay down again. And that was at about 9 o'clock. I told Bob, I said, I'm just going to lay down for a couple minutes more because I'd been up for a couple hours doing some creative stuff. And I crashed till noon. I was like, oh, okay. I was tired. So, but today I feel much better. Got a good night's sleep, much better. And tomorrow I'll get even better night's sleep and I'll feel better again. And back to Sunday, we'll get our energy back up. So everybody, thank you so much for being here, for being part of this whole experience for me, with me, that keeps me healthy, that keeps me creative, that keeps my mind going, keeps challenging myself, keeps doing creative things that make me happy. And you guys all fill my bucket when you come in here and you listen to these things, because literally finding these to read and doing this gives me such a kind of a sense of direction on certain things. And when I find books like this, I know that you guys are going to be open to what they have to offer and are going to be loving it and going to use whatever you need to use for yourself. And for that, I thank you each and every day. And I'm so glad that you came to Story and Art. And Sunday, send your stuff in because it's show and tell day, even though it's Mother's Day. So until next time, everybody, keep looking for the beauty hidden in plain sight. It's all around. You know it is, but the first place you'll find it is if you just go look in the mirror, and beauty will be looking right back at you. Until Sunday. Come on.
In the heat of the night, we could get lost in all the lights and sounds. Feel alright, we won't go home, we will just stay here downtown. There's not just stars on the boulevard, they're in the light in your eyes. Oh, we don't need no black cards, I just need you by my side. We could be shameless, famous, running cool, with a love that leaves us weightless. Ooh, drop dead gorgeous, wow. Ooh,
Hey, there's Angie. How you doing, Angie? Yay.
we could be famous. We could be famous. You blow my mind, looking like a model, better than the usual.
Oh, yay. Larry, that's
Don't even try.
awesome.
Now average or
Glad.
typical, I put you on a pedestal. There's not just stars on the boulevard,
What do you call it, a balloon?
they're in the light in your eyes. Oh, we don't need no black cards, I just need you by my side. We could be shameless, famous, running cool, with a love that leaves us weightless. Ooh,
Oh, nice.
yeah, gorgeous,
Great gifts.
wow. Ooh, you got me feeling starstruck.
I just ordered new glasses.
We could be
Zenny, they'll be here in a couple of weeks. Well,
We could
I
be
didn't send them back,
famous.
so 7 days.
We could be famous. We could be
Oh,
famous.
no, Angie, I have a thing against that. Yes, exactly what Larry said. Thank you all for being here. Love it. You're all here. So nice.
We could be shameless, famous.
Linda, send in some art of yours.
Ooh, with a love that leaves us weightless.
Susan, you too. Julia,
Gorgeous,
want to see some stuff.
you got me feeling starstruck too.
Oh, a mala heart chakra necklace. Oh, cool. That would be beautiful.
We could be famous. We could be famous.
I found a metaphysical store in downtown Olympia that when I walked in, I was totally blissed out. I'll tell you about it. Bye, everybody.